Hello? My girlfriend laughed and said, "If my ex texted me right now, I'd drop you instantly." Everyone at the table laughed. I smiled too. Moments later, her phone buzzed, a public announcement of my promotion lighting up her screen. I stood up, left without a word, and let the silence do what no reply ever could. We were at a crowded rooftop bar downtown, the kind with overpriced cocktails and string lights meant to make everything feel lighter than it actually is. Her friends were there. A couple of her coworkers. People I'd spent months trying to fit in with. I was standing next to her, arm loosely around her waist, thinking the night was going fine. Then someone brought up her ex. Not in a serious way, just one of those lazy, half-drunk, remember when comments. Her friend grinned and asked, "Be honest. If he texted you right now, what would you do?" She didn't even hesitate. "If my ex texted me right now," she said loudly, smiling, "I'd drop him instantly." She nodded toward me like I was a prop. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. That's the part that still bothers me. I smiled, raised my glass, played along like it was just a joke. Like my stomach hadn't just tightened. Like she hadn't reduced me to something disposable in front of a crowd. For context, I'm 32M. She's 29F. We'd been together 2 years. Lived together for 8 months. I paid most of the rent because she was figuring things out. I supported her career complaints, her late nights, her constant comparisons to people doing better than both of us. She loved to say she was just brutally honest. I'd learned that was her excuse for being cruel. Someone else joked, "Damn, savage," and she shrugged. "What? I'm just saying. He knows where he stands." I nodded again, still smiling. Inside, something went quiet. That's when her phone buzzed. She glanced down, her smile flickering for half a second before she laughed again. "Oh wow," she said, holding up her screen. "Your company just posted about your promotion." People turned toward me, suddenly interested. "Wait, you got promoted?" someone asked. I hadn't even seen the post yet. She looked at me, amused. "Guess you're not as replaceable as I thought." More laughter. I didn't check my phone. I didn't say anything. I finished my drink, set the glass down carefully, and stepped away while everyone was distracted. I left without a word. Because sometimes silence doesn't argue. It concludes. I didn't go far that night. Just down the street, past the noise and the laughter, until the music faded into traffic and my phone finally felt heavy in my pocket. I checked the post then. There it was. My company's LinkedIn page. A photo from a conference months ago. My name. New title. A paragraph about leadership, trust, and long-term vision. Dozens of likes already. Comments from coworkers, mentors, even my boss. Congratulations. Well deserved. Proud of you. I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because of the promotion, I'd known it was coming, but because of the timing. The irony felt deliberate, even though I knew it wasn't. I went home late. She was already there, sprawled on the couch, shoes kicked off, scrolling her phone. "Hey," she said without looking up. "Why'd you disappear?" "I left," I said. She smirked. "Don't be dramatic. Everyone was having fun." I didn't respond. I set my keys down, took off my jacket, and went to the kitchen. She followed a minute later, leaning against the counter with that look she got when she wanted to be entertained. "You okay?" she asked, fake concern layered over irritation. "You got really quiet after the joke." "It wasn't a joke," I said. She laughed. "Oh my God, you're still on that? Relax. You know I didn't mean it like that." I looked at her. Really looked. The ease with which she dismissed it. The way she expected me to swallow it like I always did. "You said you'd drop me instantly," I replied. In front of everyone. She rolled her eyes. "People exaggerate. Besides, my ex would never text me." "Right," I said. She stepped closer. "And even if he did, it wouldn't mean anything. You're being insecure." There it was. The word she used every time I reacted to disrespect. She grabbed her phone, waved it in the air. "See? Nothing. Happy." I nodded. "Yeah." That seemed to satisfy her. She went back to the couch, already bored of the conversation. That night, lying in bed next to her, I replayed the laughter. The way no one questioned it. The way I'd smiled to make it easier for everyone else. I realized something then. She hadn't embarrassed me. She'd revealed herself. And once you see that clearly, you stop needing to explain why you're pulling away. You just do. The next few days felt strangely calm on the surface. She sent me the promotion post the morning after like it was hers to share. "Guess I'm dating a big shot now," faced with tears of joy. No congratulations. No pride. Just ownership. I replied with a thumbs up emoji and went back to work. That's when the comments started changing. "You're acting different," she said that night while we ate dinner. Don't let this promotion go to your head. I kept my eyes on my plate. It won't. She studied me like she was looking for something to poke at. I just don't want you thinking you're suddenly above anyone. Above her, she meant. Later that week, we met up with the same group again. Different bar. Same energy. Her ex didn't come up this time, but she found other ways. She interrupted me mid-sentence to correct a detail that didn't matter. She joked about how corporate I sounded now. She told someone, he's only good at work stuff. Emotionally, total mess. Everyone laughed again. I smiled again. But something had shifted. I wasn't shrinking anymore. I was observing. On the way home, she sighed dramatically. You were kind of boring tonight. I glanced over. Yeah. You used to be more fun before you got all serious, she said. Just don't forget, success doesn't make you interesting. That one stayed with me. Not because it hurt. Because it explained everything. She needed me smaller so she could feel bigger. Needed me uncertain so she could feel chosen. And the moment something external validated me, something she couldn't control, she started cutting. That night, while she slept, I opened a notes app and started writing. Not feelings. Facts. What I paid. What I covered. What I postponed for us. I also wrote down a date 6 months in the future. Not a deadline. A checkpoint. She still thought the joke was harmless. She had no idea she'd already lost the audience that mattered most. By the second week after the bar, she started pushing harder. It was subtle at first. Little comments meant to test whether I'd shrink back into place. Must be nice getting all this attention at work, she said one morning while getting ready. Just don't start thinking you're special. I didn't answer. That bothered her. She was used to reactions, defensiveness, reassurance, arguments she could win. Silence confused her. So she escalated. One night, while we were watching TV, she casually said, you know, my ex would have handled that promotion way better than you. I muted the TV. Looked at her. How so? I asked. He just had more presence, she said, smirking. More confidence. Not this quiet, brooding thing you're doing lately. There it was again. Comparison as correction. I nodded slowly. Sounds like you really admire him. She scoffed. Don't be dramatic. I'm just saying. She always just said things. Never owned the impact. Never apologized. The cruelty was always framed as honesty, and honesty was always framed as a favor. A few days later, she asked if I could cover a larger share of rent again because she was between opportunities. I agreed without discussion. Not because I felt obligated, but because I was already planning my exit, and keeping the peace bought me time. That night, she posted another story. A photo of her drink. Caption, still waiting for someone who actually excites me. I saw it. She knew I would. She didn't look at me once when she came to bed. Lying there in the dark, I realized something important. She wasn't trying to leave me. She was trying to scare me into staying smaller. People like that don't want to end relationships. They want leverage. They want you unsure, grateful, replaceable. The promotion post hadn't impressed her. It had threatened her. And from that moment on, everything she did was about restoring the old balance, where I laughed off disrespect and called it love. What she didn't know was that balance was already gone. I wasn't angry. I was preparing. And preparation is far more dangerous than rage. The night everything finally tipped wasn't dramatic. No shouting. No tears. Just a quiet realization that I'd crossed some invisible line she couldn't pull me back from. We were at dinner with another couple, friends of hers I barely tolerated. Midway through the meal, the guy asked how work was going. Before I could answer, she cut in. He's been so full of himself lately, she said, laughing. Ever since that promotion post. Like, relax, you're still you. Everyone chuckled. I smiled again. Out of habit. Out of muscle memory. Then she added, honestly, if my ex texted me right now, I'd still drop everything. At least he knew how to keep things exciting. That one landed differently this time. Not because it was worse, but because I didn't feel the need to recover from it. I excused myself to the bathroom, stood there staring at my reflection, and felt something settle. No anger. No humiliation. Just certainty. When I came back, she was already scrolling her phone under the table. It buzzed. She glanced down and froze for half a second. Then she laughed loudly. Oh my God. Speak of the devil. Your company reposted the promotion again. Guess you're really milking this. She turned the screen toward the table. Everyone leaned in, suddenly impressed. Damn, someone said. That's huge. She looked at me, smirking. See? Guess I picked someone right after all. That was the moment. I stood up, calmly, placed my napkin on the table, and said nothing. She frowned. Where are you going? I'm heading out, I said. Seriously, she scoffed. Over a joke? I didn't answer. I didn't look back. I walked out into the night air feeling lighter than I had in months, knowing something she didn't yet understand. I'd already outgrown the version of myself she still thought she controlled. And silence, real silence, was about to teach her a lesson no argument ever could. She didn't text me that night. That's how I knew it bothered her. Normally, if I walked out or went quiet, my phone would blow up with messages, half accusatory, half needy. That night, nothing. Just silence. Strategic silence. The kind meant to punish. I let it work. The next morning, she finally messaged me like nothing had happened. You left your charger here. Also, don't be weird about last night. No apology. No question. Just an expectation that I'd fall back into place. I replied, keep it. That was new. When I got home that evening, she was already annoyed. Sitting on the couch, arms crossed, TV on mute. So we're doing the passive-aggressive thing now? She asked. No, I said, setting my keys down. We're doing the honest thing. She scoffed. Oh, please. You walked out to make a point. I walked out because I was done being the punchline. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. God, you're so dramatic lately. You really think you're irreplaceable now? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. That unsettled her more than anything. You know, she continued, leaning forward, confidence looks bad on you. You should be grateful I put up with your moods. That was it. The line she crossed without realizing there was no return from it. I am grateful, I said calmly. Just not for you. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Over the next few weeks, I pulled back in ways she couldn't accuse me of directly. I stopped covering her extras, stopped adjusting my schedule, stopped explaining where I was or why I was late. I worked relentlessly, early mornings, late nights, weekends. I poured everything into building something solid, something that didn't rely on her approval or tolerance. She complained constantly. You're never around. You don't care anymore. You're acting single. She wasn't wrong. What she didn't know was that every quiet hour I spent working was moving me further away from her reach. She thought I was sulking. I was positioning myself. And by the time she realized the difference, it was already too late. The first crack showed when she realized silence wasn't pulling me back. It had been almost 3 weeks since I walked out of that dinner. 3 weeks of me coming home late, leaving early, and answering her questions with fewer and fewer words. I wasn't cold. I was neutral. And that drove her insane. You don't even fight anymore, she snapped one night while I was putting on my jacket. Do you even care if I leave? I paused, genuinely thinking about it. I care, I said. I just don't panic. That wasn't the answer she wanted. She started trying a different angle after that. Suddenly, she was affectionate. Compliments she'd never given before. Touches that felt rehearsed. You've been doing really well lately, she said one evening, tracing her finger along my arm. I knew you had it in you. I smiled politely. Funny, I replied. I don't remember you saying that before. Her face tightened for half a second before she recovered. I was just trying to push you. Push. Right. A few days later, she tested me again. You know, she said casually while scrolling her phone. My ex liked one of my old photos today. I didn't react. She waited. Looked up. Aren't you going to ask about it? No, I said. Why would I? That scared her. For the first time, I saw uncertainty replace arrogance. Because indifference can't be negotiated with. You can't guilt it. You can't provoke it. You can't shame it. That night, while she slept, I packed a small bag and left it in my trunk. Not to leave yet. Just to be ready. The next morning, my company announced another internal post. New project lead. Bigger scope. Bigger visibility. My phone buzzed nonstop. Hers didn't. She saw it anyway. She always did. When I got home, she was sitting at the table, unusually quiet. So, she said finally, guess things are really happening for you. Yeah, I replied. They are. She nodded slowly, then said the one thing she didn't realize was already too late. Just don't forget who was there before all this. I looked at her and thought, I haven't forgotten. That's exactly why I was leaving. I didn't leave that night. Not because I hesitated, but because timing matters when you're dealing with someone who needs control. I wanted the absence to land clean, not feel like a reaction. Over the next month, I became a ghost in my own apartment. I stopped sharing my schedule, stopped updating her on work, stopped reacting when she baited me. She noticed everything. You're hiding things, she accused one morning. People don't just change like this. They do, I said, when they're done explaining themselves. That answer rattled her. She started spiraling in smaller, messier ways. Picking fights over dishes, over tone, over nothing. Then switching to affection the moment it didn't work. One night, she snapped completely. You think you're better than me now, don't you? She said, eyes sharp. Ever since that promotion post. No, I replied. I think I finally stopped believing I was worse. She went silent. A few days later, I signed the lease on a new place. Quiet building. Closer to work. No drama. No history. I moved my important things first. Documents, clothes, laptop. I left the rest for later. The night before I officially moved out, she tried one last time. You know, she said, lying next to me in bed. People don't just walk away from something real. I stared at the ceiling. They walk away from disrespect all the time. She didn't reply. The next morning, I left early. No note. No announcement. Just my keys on the counter and my life already in motion. She called later that day. I didn't answer. Because some lessons don't need closure. They need space. And silence was about to do what no argument ever could. She didn't handle the silence well. 3 days after I moved out, my phone started lighting up. First texts, then calls. Then calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Where are you? This is childish. You don't get to disappear like this. I didn't respond. A week later, she changed tactics. I'm worried about you. We should talk like adults. I miss us. That one almost sounded convincing. If you ignored the months of disrespect that came before it. I heard from mutual friends that she was spiraling, telling people I'd changed, that I'd let success go to my head, that I abandoned her right when things got good. She left out the jokes, the comparisons. The night she laughed about dropping me for her ex. Funny how selective memory gets when consequences show up. Then came the call I didn't expect. She called from her work phone. I answered out of curiosity. She was crying immediately. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she said between sobs. You didn't even fight. I did fight, I replied calmly. Just not for you. That made her angry fast. So what? You think you're better than me now? She snapped. You think this promotion makes you untouchable? No, I said. I think it showed me what I was tolerating. She went quiet. Then her voice softened again. If my ex texted me now, I wouldn't answer. I swear. I almost laughed. That wasn't the problem, I said. The problem was you wanted me to hear it. She begged then. Actually begged. Promised she'd change. Said she was joking. Said everyone jokes like that. I looked out the window of my new place at the city lights. Quiet, steady, peaceful. I believe you could change, I said honestly. I just don't need to stay to see it. She hung up without saying goodbye. That was the last time we spoke. Because by then, the silence wasn't punishment anymore. It was protection. I saw her one last time about 2 months later. It wasn't planned. It never is. I was at a small industry mixer. Nothing flashy, just drinks, quiet conversations, people talking shop. I was there with someone new. Not as a statement. Not to prove anything. Just because life had kept moving and I'd let it. She spotted me across the room. I knew immediately by the way her posture stiffened. She walked over slowly, eyes flicking between me and the woman beside me. My new girlfriend smiled politely, completely unbothered. That alone said more than any words could have. So, my ex said, forcing a laugh. Guess everything worked out for you. Yeah, I replied. It did. She nodded, swallowing. I didn't think you'd actually leave like that. Without saying anything. I thought about the bar, the laughter, the way she'd made me the punchline and expected me to play along. I said everything I needed to, I said, just not out loud. She looked down. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback ready. No joke, no comparison, no weaponized honesty. I didn't think silence would hurt more than yelling, she admitted quietly. I met her eyes. It usually does. There was a long pause before she asked the question I knew was coming. Do you ever miss me? I answered honestly. I miss who I was before I learned better. That was the end of it. She nodded once, stepped back, and walked away without another word. I turned back to my girlfriend, who squeezed my hand and asked if I was okay. I was. Because some people only understand your value when you stop explaining it to them. And sometimes the most powerful response isn't anger, or revenge, or closure. It's building a life so full and steady that the person who tried to make you feel replaceable can only watch it happen, from the outside, in silence. Bye-bye.